You're right, guys, this is another BronyDan Talks Doctor Who. Now, I was going to do a more traditional BronyDan Talks Doctor Who, reviewing an actual story, but I decided this time to do something a little bit different because of something recently has been coming up, which I wanted to give my 2 cents on. Now, for those of you who don't know, Philip Morris, he's a guy who has sort of been making his life mission to try and find and locate as many of the missing Doctor Who episodes that are currently missing, which, if you don't know, there are 97 episodes of Doctor Who. All of them are from the William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton era that are no longer in the archives. And because of the purge of, Doctor Who media that happened during the 60s and 70s, where a lot of the tapes were wiped or destroyed, and he's made it his mission to try and see if he can locate any episodes that are still currently missing, whether it be from overseas or abroad. And recently he's come out and has said that he has information that apparently there are 6 missing episodes that are in the hands of these private collectors. And normally with these types of stories I would take them with a bit of a grain of salt, but because it's Philip Morris, and I think it's fair to say we trust Morris because, he has done quite a lot to find missing Doctor Who stories. He's found us an episode of Galaxy 4, Underwater Menace. I mean, it's because of Philip Morris that we have the entirety of The Enemy of the World back, and Web of Fear to some extent. So I think I would trust him if he says that he knows that there are currently 6 episodes in private collectors and he wants to try and negotiate for their return to the BBC. I'm like, okay, I believe what you're saying. I'm not sure if that just makes me a bit close-minded about it, but I think Philip Morris he's earned my trust when it comes to missing Doctor Who media. And I think this has brought up an interesting question that I've thought of. You could do this with your own time as well, but if it is true that there are these 6 episodes that Philip Morris believes are still around, what episodes would you want them to be? If you had to choose any of the missing episodes to come back to the BBC, which ones would you pick? And I think that's what I'm going to do with this video. Is I'm going to talk about what episodes that I would like personally, my chosen 6 to be brought back to the archive. Now, obviously, the first one is, of course, Web of Fear, episode 3. That one we do know is in the hands of a private collector because the bastard stole it from Philip Morris when he was getting the episodes back over to England. So, that one we know is somewhere, and ideally that is an episode we really would want to come back because, it completes the story. It's the only one from the Web of Fear that is missing, and, having that back, it completes the whole story, and I know I know why the person took it, in a way. It's the first episode that introduces the character of Lethbridge Stewart, played wonderfully as usual by Nicholas Courtney. So, yeah, that's an episode that we really need to come back just to complete the story. My second episode, if it had to come back, again, it's an obvious one. It's the 10th Planet, episode 4. And again, this is probably the holy grail of missing episodes because, you know, it's William Hartnell's last story. It's his last episode. And the fact that that's the only part of the 10th planet that is missing, it just hurts you to think that somewhere out there that episode still exists, but it's not in the archives. And I think that's the episode I think a lot of us would want to come back. Again, just for completist reasons for the 10th planet, and the fact that it's William Hartnell's last story, and I think we feel like he deserves it. He deserves it, in a way. And the third episode, I personally would like to have been found. And now these two, I will admit, are pretty big, are long shots. Like, these are the next two are the ones I sincerely doubt we'll ever find them, but I am hoping in some way. The third episode I would like found is Evil of the Daleks, episode 7. And I think the reason why I would choose episode 7 over in Evil of the Daleks, because I know that we have episode 2, that's the only episode of this story in the archives, and I chose episode 7 because I would just like to see everything happens in that. A lot of things happen in that episode. Like, you have like the Dalek we see the Dalek Emperor for the first time on Skaro. We have the whole thing with the human factor and the Dalek factor in there. We have the big civil war that happens on Skaro between the humanized Daleks and the normal Daleks. And, you know, like, all we ever got from that episode is, like, we get like, everyone knows about, we've seen, like, all the behind the scenes sort of, like, shots, like somebody had actually filmed from, like, their own personal cameras or anything of the production of that episode, of that story. And it looks really well done. I mean, you know, it looks like a lot of work went into that production, and especially into the final battle. And I personally would say I just want to see that brought back, because it looks, like, again, it looks pretty good. I think Evil of the Daleks is actually a very good story. I think, you know, I just would... and again, it's one of those things, I'd like to see more of Evil of the Daleks, because we have Power already in animated form, but I think Evil just had that little bit more of an edge to it. So, and I think the last episode, I think, is a perfect culmination of that. I can remember, you know, during the early days of YouTube and of Doctor Who animations on the internet, I can remember watching clips of Evil of the Daleks, and it just piqued my interest with that story. Like the dialogue, you know, and the characters that we saw, like Maxtable and Waterfield and everything. I just found myself fascinated by these characters, and I would like to see what actually happens in that final episode between all of them. So yeah, and the fourth episode I personally would like to have found is, again, it's going to be a bit kind of an obvious one again, but I would like to find Daleks Master Plan, episode 12. Now, the Daleks Master Plan is a very long story. It is probably the Doctor Who the epic of all Doctor Who epics. It is a 12-part episode. But it's again like Evil of the Daleks, it's a fascinating story. It never feels like slow or padded or anything. Even when you're listening to the audio of it, you know, it gets you going all the way. You are with the Doctor all the way through the story and all of what he does. And episode 12 is, again, it's the last episode, and it's, I mean, like, if you've heard episode 12, it is like a proper shit your pants terrifying moment. And I just love when every time I listen to it and you watch the telesnaps, it looks and sounds it sounds terrifying in a way. Like, you know, like mainly I want to see like the effects they did during like those last few minutes of the episode where like the time destructor is activated, Sarah Kingdom is aging to death, the planet, the lush like jungle planet of Kemble has now become a desert and everything, and it sounds absolutely terrifying, and a great piece of directing by Douglas Camfield. Who, you know, I think Douglas Camfield is just one of my favourite Doctor Who directors, and I would love to see what he actually does in that final moment, because, you know, like I said, it just sounds and looks like in 1966, this was probably one of the most terrifying moments in all of Doctor Who history. So that's probably why I would want to see it, because like just from a production standard of those last few minutes, yeah, that is, I think that's enough of a reason just to see episode 12 of Daleks Master Plan, is just for the production that they had to do to get the effect they wanted for the time destructor pretty much destroying everything. Now, the 5th episode that I would like to have found, and it maybe seem like an odd choice for some, but it would have to be episode 4 of the Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve. Now, the Massacre is a story that, like, I'm not particularly fond of. Like, it is quite a drag of a story, particularly since this is the story that comes right after Dalek's Master Plan, and it is super depressing. But I would want the Massacre episode 4 to be found again for that last scene in the TARDIS where Stephen, you know, leaves, and it's just the Doctor on his own for the first time in the TARDIS. He is now properly on his own. All of his companions have left him, and he's just and he is now just this old man in his travelling police box, and he just laments in a way. He just sort of starts lamenting and reminiscing about all the people he's travelled with, like Susan and Barbara and Ian and Vicky. And it is like, I think it is one of William Hartnell's best speeches, and you feel the emotion that he has when he speaks about it. Like when he says, like, maybe I should move on and go back to my own planet, but I can't. It, like, that's just to see that speech, I think would be enough for me to maybe consider giving the Massacre another watch, because I think that speech is, like, it's probably right up there with his goodbye speech to Susan in the Dalek Invasion of Earth. It's like, it is a defining Hartnell moment, and it is such a shame that we can't see it. And finally, the 6th episode that I would like found, and like, I know a lot of these have been like the last episodes of stories, I'm sorry, but I'm going to shake it up a little bit. And the 6th episode I'd like to find, honestly, I would go for Fury from the Deep episode 3. Now, I know we're going to be getting Fury from the Deep on DVD later on in the year anyway, because of, you know, it's going to be animated and everything. But I would like, but just, if I had to choose an episode for that story to have existed, it's probably going to be, I would choose episode 3. I know a lot of people will choose either, like, episode 2, because obviously that's the episode where we get that famous Mr. Quill and Oak scene, which is still the most terrifying thing in Doctor Who, or at least the most chilling clip in all of Doctor Who. Or they would go for episode 6 for, like, you know, the big final bit with the weed creature, and of course for Victoria's goodbye scene at the end. But I chose but I think episode 3 is another good contender for an episode, because a lot happens in that episode. Like, we learn, like, you know, we learn a little bit more about the weed creature in that story, and we get, like, the scene where, you know, we have all the foam inside the Harris's house, and, you know, we have all the tendrils and everything, and it's you know, and it sounds like, again, like a lot of these things, it sounds creepy and it sounds like a suspenseful scene. And again, I would want to, and again, but the big reason why I want to find this episode is for that is again, the cliffhanger episode for that episode is a creepy image where you've got Maggie Harris, and she is just, because she's been possessed by the weed creature, and you just see her walk into the sea, and it, like, from what it looks like from the stills, it's just like this single camera shot of her just walking into the ocean, and like, she's literally just walking all the way up until she's pretty much under it. Those images, I don't know why, they've always creeped me out. Like, like water or drowning or anything, you know, is quite terrifying for me. So I would like, again, maybe it's like, I would just want to see how they did it. Like, if it was just a single shot of just Maggie walking, or maybe if there were cuts that they wanted to do just to give the effect that she was walking into it. Whatever it was, I would want, that is my chosen episode from Fury from the Deep that I would like to have been found. So, yeah, those are my chosen 6 episodes. If Philip Morris has, if what Philip Morris has said is true about there being 6 episodes in the hands of private collectors, those are the 6 episodes I would love to have been, the ones to be in their possession. And simple question of it is, what ones would you like found, like, from what we know, from what Philip Morris has told us about it? What 6 episodes would you like found in these collectors, and which one, and then brought back? Which ones would you want? What would be your chosen 6 missing Doctor Who episodes? You know, post it in the comment down below, and yeah, hopefully next time I'll see you for a actual proper Doctor Who story. And yeah, bye.